My background is in photojournalists, so for a long time, I'm really interested in how people relate to landscape, and so I've sort of always made projects about thinking about how people are, how the place that they live affects them culturally, the opportunities that they have, and especially particularly like rural, isolated places where I think we still have these kind of like bubbles of unique culture, which really excites me. And this obviously being a place that I'm from, long captured my imagination and something that I wanted to return to and make work about. So about 5 years ago, I was speaking with another artist who's from this area, and we decided I would start working on a project. And so the first thing I was thinking was, well, the Ozarks, has anyone been to the Ozarks area?
Yeah.
A few people? Okay, it's a really complicated culture. It's one of the most historically impoverished places in the country, but there's also this fantastic freedom and independence. It's like a place that draws people who really are seeking out an alternative. So this is a lot to put into a project, and so I was trying to think of a metaphor that would touch on some of the issues I found there. But I was also very protective of this place, and some of the issues that are very difficult to talk about. I think it's easy to dismiss the people who live there as hillbillies, and I feel like that's what I primarily have seen. So I was trying to find a way to help viewers connect with the ideas of what it's like to be a part of the culture, rather than see them as sort of an other. So in my research, before actually getting started, I ran across a story called The Spooklight. And this is a story about an orb of light that is said to appear on a remote road in the woods. And no one knows what it is. The army went to figure it out in the 50s, and no one, it's a mystery. It's a mystery. So it's and so it kind of has become a little bit of this Route 66 cult tourist attraction, but not really, like, very kind of gritty, a very gritty kind of place. But I was really fascinated, since no one knows what it is. Of course, we make up stories, because that's what people do. And I thought that the stories that people were telling really resonated with my experience being from this place, and I thought really talked about some of the difficult things about living there. So, for instance, I felt a light in the woods that we seek out really resonated with being in the Bible Belt, reading, Jesus saying that He is a light that leads to life. This is, there's something sort of redemptive, hopeful, optimistic about seeking out something better. And I was thinking about it as kind of a desire in a place with very little opportunity, very little options. This was people thinking about something good that they could find. But interestingly, there's another story on this road that the devil lives here and will steal your soul for a wish. So, but of course this is a trickster devil, right? You don't know that you are losing your soul. So you go to this place, and I think it's also very interesting, like this kind of talks about like sort of like the European settlement, right? This is a European story that then gets hooked into a local landscape. And so like why do we have the devil? Why is that a person or a character that we hold on to in this community? And thinking about why is there a location that you can go and you don't know if you're going to find something beautiful and redemptive or if you're going to find damnation. You don't know. So I was doing research about why people hold on to, why people tell the devil myth, what function it serves, and I found that belief in the devil correlates with a feeling of powerlessness. And once I read that, I was just like, this makes sense, right? Like, we tell this story because, we're trying to make sense of our lives, and this becomes a safe kind of opportunity for these conversations to happen within a community. So we go down here, spend quite a bit of time, and talk to people on the road, and found that we we were just having these sort of bizarre metaphysical conversations that this place seemed to encourage. So that kind of talks a little bit about the pieces on the wall. The project is a lot broader. It's really about Ozark culture today and looking at its portraiture and landscape. And a lot of it kind of comes from that documentary tradition where it feels like a real place, but I'm also thinking about it as like a magical realism type project. Like, I want you to feel like it's a place that you can go to, but then there's this this shift to almost another realm, which I felt like was very much a part of the culture in those stories, but in order to show that visually, I wanted to play with that sort of more believable imagery and then sort of the more fantastical based on stories that I was hearing. So, yeah.
Is that a natural light photograph?
It's, what do you mean by natural?
And did you take a picture that actually had a light like that at the end of the road?
Yes, I did. And these two they're staged, but they were, growing up there, I felt like being a kid growing up in the woods, thinking about what it's like to be in the woods, especially at night, that feeling. And then also being like a teenager driving around country roads at night, and like that sort of glow when you're in the dark and nothing else is around, and all of a sudden another car is approaching, and there's
so
this glow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But and then I was also just thinking about so this story, this light is they don't know how old it is. Just pretty much ever since there's been people there. I think that they've been telling this story. And just think about what it would be like to live there before electricity, where it's just like you're in, like the woods is kind of a interesting, intimidating environment. It's very, I don't know, it's scary. It seems to get to something kind of primal with us, and then we think about what it would be like for a light to appear out of the darkness, and what that,
devil coming in the car.
yeah. So, yeah. Any other questions?
And this picture?
This picture, similarly, this is a representation of the light. So just hearing, spending a lot of time just talking to people growing up there who would go out to these places and what it was like to see these things. And then also looking at some art historical references of landscape painting and things like that, and to create these kind of images, yeah. But I call this one false lights, which I think is really important. Oh, wait.
That's my fault.
That's okay. Because I like the idea of kind of questioning what you're seeing, yeah.
Lara, I read something you said about that really struck a chord with me. You were talking about the woods as a scary place, but particularly for women. And I'm sure as a young girl, because, the woods are beautiful and they're, it's nature and it's great, but there's also this dark side.
Right.
Which Mimi's piece also kind of
yes,
to.
absolutely.
And I think particularly for women, it's got this.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up. I think a little bit about my background is I grew up in a very kind of quaint river town. My dad was a prosecutor for a while, and so I grew up very aware of the criminal element of this community. And he would always be like, you need to watch out for this older tattooed man, looks kind of like Popeye. And I'm just like, that's like everyone in town, So I grew up with this awareness of danger, a danger that could be in the woods. We had this local jail that apparently was really easy to break out of, so people were constantly on the lam in the woods, and I think that's also a little bit like the Ozarks has been sort of historically a hiding place, and there's all of these famous accounts of criminals who what's that?
With stills and things?
With stills? Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the Wild West, but Appalachian style. So yeah, so I grew up aware of these things, thinking about these things, and I think that having a brother, just noticing that there are ways in which women are taught to be very cautious of their surroundings. That's protective of them, but it also like learning to fear in this way that I don't entirely appreciate. So so then when I'm out camping by myself as a woman, which people find shocking, but why not? Why can't I have that experience of being a part of nature?